Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is the third episode of our podcast Beyond the Big Screen, and in today's episode, we'll be discussing about the curious case of Benjamin Button. So imagine a world where you're born old and die young, a world where your life is a reverse journey through time, from old age to infancy. This is the world of Benjamin Button. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is a unique and moving film that explores themes of aging, death, love, and loss from a different perspective. It is a film that will stay with you long after you have seen it. In today's podcast, we'll be discussing the movie in detail. We'll also talk about its unique concept, its emotional impact, and its place in pop culture. We'll also discuss the film's themes, characters, and technical aspects. So let's start. And just to start off this podcast, let's talk about that. This is one of the most different kind of film David Fincher has made. So if you've seen movies like Zodiac, Seven, all of them are like really violent, not really violent, but like big thrillers with the big plot. I mean, you get the point, right? What kind of movies he makes, like Mindhunter and all those. But this was like a very different take on his filmmaking career or type of film he makes. So let's start with that. So let's just go around and discuss what you guys thought about that. Anybody? Kanishk.
So I watched the movie a couple of months back, and it left a lasting impression on me. I disagree with Aman when he says that the movie is different from David Fincher's films because if you see the overtone of his films, it's usually something very dark. There is a sort of haunting notion to each and every one of his films, which makes you think about humanity in a very negative way. For example, Seven, Zodiac, Mindhunter, any of the examples you just named, or even Gone Girl, the kind of psychopathic behavior that he has shown. But in the curious case of Benjamin Button, it's not the humans, it's death in itself. It's the fact that our life is a lot left up to chance, and there is nothing we can do to control it. I think that is the way he has shown and continued his entire filmography. So I really wouldn't agree with you when you say that it's a different kind of a film for him. It's exactly the same. It's very methodical. Obviously, his directing style is very different from others. But the fact that you come out of the film and think about just how futile life can be, how things can be changed just because of something small.
Hmm.
I think it does leave a very haunting overtone to the viewer.
Hmm.
I don't know because the film is more of a life of a journey way as compared to other movies that is there. Like this is not an event movie as such. You can see in Gone Girl or even in uh, Seven. The movie is an event. Like a certain thing has happened and uh, then the events are unfold. But in this movie, there's a of course it's a movie about aging and about a life itself. So it's a long journey. Like it's from birth to death. So of course, a long time has to be encompassed. So in that sense, it is much feels also a lot more uh, longer film, and also it's of course it's different from other movies that he has made.
Hmm. I don't remember properly, but I feel like the pacing of the movie is like very different compared to other movies. I'm not sure because I don't remember his other movies, pacing of his other movies, but I think this is like a very, it's been a long time since I saw them. So it feels like it's a very slow film compared to any other. No, actually, it is a slow film initially and all other aspects. That's what I felt. But the point is, it did feel like a very different film compared to his other films because he takes like a very different style of making his style of making films is like one thing. He went in like a completely different way to make this, and he took like a very different concept to show the process of life, you could say. So it did feel different to me. You were making faces about the pacing, so well,
I
Yes,
completely disagree with you when it comes to the pacing. His movies usually they're not slow paced, but they set the tone. And
hmm,
usually that takes time, which is why this movie was, I think, 2 hours 45 minutes long or something like that. But it's about his journey. It's about a life, an entire life of a person who is reverse aging, what he's experiencing, the people he's connected to, what they're experiencing. So obviously, in that sort of a scenario, you need to show all the possibilities. Imagine if it was barely 90 minutes long and you barely see half of his journey. It would not be satisfying, I would say. When I
Ah,
came out of the movie, I could completely empathize with what he had gone through, which is very difficult if you try to cut down the length of a film.
ah, that's what I felt after the movie, actually. What I'm saying is, when you start watching the movie, it feels very slow. Because I remember, like, when I was watching it, at least for the first 30 minutes, I was like, it's very slow. Because I did feel that. Because I think for the first 40 minutes, they showed him, like, until he was like 7 or 8 or 10 years old. And he was very young. Up till that point, that felt very long to me. Because I didn't feel like, we were moving forward in the movie at that point.
Do you think it could also be sort of an artistic choice that in the starting, when he's old, the movie is slow paced, but at the end, when he's young, the movie cuts very quickly? Like after he becomes, I think, a teenager to his death, it was very fast paced and it was not from his perspective at all. They shifted to Kate Blanchett. And don't you think that speaks a lot about life in general? Like when you're old, life goes very slowly because your limbs are not what they used to be. But when you're young, life goes away very quickly.
Hmm.
Maybe like that's a good point. And also, like coming back to the David Fincher part, when I actually saw the trailer, I saw the trailer of the movie long back. So I thought it was done by Steven Spielberg originally. Okay, so originally it was supposed to be done by Steven Spielberg. So I was under the impression that it is directed by Steven Spielberg because that is where his filmography is. Like he can make this film. But when the credits roll and it was David Fincher, I was really surprised that it is David Fincher because, as Evan said, it is a different film from different movie in his filmography. That was a little bit surprising. Uh, Sorry for the deviation. Kanish was saying something totally else, and I just bring up this point.
No, no, it's the same thing. It's majorly we were just talking about the pacing right now. It's like a additional point to, you could say, the style of direction in this movie.
Hmm.
Your thoughts on that?
What the direction part of it?
No, for the pacing part of it, majorly.
For
What
the
do you thought about the
part of
pacing?
uh, it's because it's the whole life is has to be shown because that is the point of the movie that you show that particular person from the old age to the it's very difficult to say old age or young age what you will say like from years of running down years in
Hmm.
life so yeah, I agree to his point. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the old age is shown much more in depth as compared to the other uh, stages of life. But I think so also because an old person being childish is a thing that can be explored more in general, not particular to this film. But like, how does a person, in his when lies young in his near to the death, are much more childlike. So that thing is interesting to explore for any artist, not in particularly related to this film.
Hmm. I didn't really think about the point when until he mentioned it, but it does sound like an artistic choice to set the pacing like that. If it is, it's very good then. All right. So, uh, where were we? Okay, let's just talk about this thing. What do you thought about the visual elements of it? Like the what do you call it? Makeup and design of the film completely. The visual elements.
I think this was the first film, or maybe I think this was the one which really stood out to me when after I watched it, I sort of researched about it and I found out that he had used visual effects to uh, quite extent, and it's not very apparent. I had thought it was makeup in a lot of the scenes, but I think that just goes on to show the brilliance. And a fun fact there is that he ran out of budget in the end to make him more. That's why I think there was some scenes or something I don't clearly remember, but because they ran out of budget, they had to instead choose somebody else. Because Fincher didn't want to do that initially. He wanted to use Brad Pitt for the entire thing, for the entire old age thing, and for the young as much as possible. But at one point, the feasibility just ran out.
So what did he do?
So he took another actor, but that was not his intention at all. It was only because he ran out of money,
Oh, so
because he
the
used a lot of visual effects.
aging process was visual effects.
Yeah, a lot of it was visual effects.
I thought it was complete makeup from start to end.
Yeah, exactly. Even I used to think that. Imagine that.
Oh, looked very nice.
So you can tell the age difference like by the look of it. You can see that the person is aging. So that is really well captured. It feels like you can make a person different from 40 to 50 or 40 to 30. You can make that difference like this person is aging. And to do that particularly well is challenging. Be it in makeup or be it in visual effects. And that is brilliantly done in this movie. For both the characters, both the lead characters, Daisy as well as the uh,
Benjamin.
Benjamin, but in very brilliantly.
One thing I liked about this was they didn't rush through the whole movie just trying to bring Brad Pitt really quickly in the film. Like if there was a different actor in the start, they didn't rush through the whole thing just to, like in first 5 or 10 minutes just to bring Brad Pitt in the movie somehow or the other. Like they ran through the whole aging process. That just shows you like the, let's say brilliance of him, like, or maybe the artistic choices or whatever, like how brilliant this man is. He didn't try to rush in just because like Brad Pitt is the money maker for the film in the end. Like he is a big celebrity. Even back then in 2008, he would be a big celebrity, and bringing him quickly in the film would give him maybe a better chance of gaining more money or something like that. Like I said, I felt that the movie was slow in the start, right? And if that was the case, if he thought something like that, then he could have brought in Brad Pitt's scenes really quickly in the film, just so that people could stay engaged in the film. But that was something which I felt that was really great, that he took his time and he didn't rush to the aging process also. Like I don't know, like after 1 hour, 30 minutes of the film or something, that was when you could see that Brad Pitt was Brad Pitt in the film. Like his hair was white or something, like when he went to that hotel to sleep with that swimmer woman, or the woman that he used to sit at night and have long chats with. That was when you really saw Brad Pitt for the first time in the film completely, and he didn't rush through the whole process. That was something I really liked.
I think somewhere it may be the artistic choice, and somewhere it may also be a financial compulsion as well. Because in the start in the movie, there is also that like the visual effects are very apparent. Like in the starting of the scene, in the starting of the movie, like around 15-20 minutes, the visual effects. Of course, you have to do a very old man growing young, so that is a difficult thing to do. But still, you can make out that there is visual effects in the starting. But when you first sit through 15-20 minutes, then it's not very. Then the makeup slash visual effects are very good.
Mm.
But like the movie is about aging, so what do you think about that? Like, because particularly Benjamin is born in a place where I think it's kind of old age home. The people just come to sit and uh, pass their days, remaining days. So that is there, and also when you are young, you are also not young, and like in your infancy, you basically pass and do time pass. You don't have anything particularly to do.
Mm.
So, with these ends of life, how do you think is portrayed in the film?
Mm. Punish.
No, Aman, please, you're the producer. You should go first.
May I insist?
No, no, I insist.
ठीक है. क्वेश्चन क्या था? इसलिए मैं बोला तू पहले बोल. क्वेश्चन था बच्चा कुछ.
Yeah,
So,
that is
yeah, as Hardik
शॉर्ट में
mentioned,
बता. हाँ, शॉर्ट में बता.
as Hardik mentioned, he did start his life in an old age home, and you have to understand that this is a guy who's young, who's in an old man's body, but he's growing up in an old age home, surrounded by people who are near death when he is not. So I think there is some sort of beautiful contrast there, which somebody can decipher. I have no idea at this point, but
Oh, there was one scene in the end which I really liked. If you remember, Daisy was an old woman who was taking care of Benjamin, who was like a little baby in the very end of the film. She was maybe taking care of her in her lap when he died in the very end, I think. That
yeah,
was like
yeah,
a very beautiful moment, which I thought like, you know, I think the moment when she said when he looked at me, he knew that I was Daisy or something. There was a line in the very end of the movie. That was when I really, liked it, because I thought that was a point where they both know they were going to die. Even as a baby, he was going to die, and she was like an old woman, she was going to die. They both knew that it was coming, and still they were, taking care
okay
of
with
each
that.
other. Okay with it, basically.
Okay with it, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of philosophical talks we can do on this movie. Just death, what people consider to come after it. Because if you see in the movie, he travels a lot. When he becomes like middle aged, I would say, like 20, 30, I would say, he goes out. He even visits India, he visits different places in the world just to try to understand the meaning of life. And I think that really speaks to almost every human who exists. What is the point of life?
Hmm.
Stop, why are you laughing?
But
So
smiling, yeah, but take it.
see, so
Mm,
I think
yeah.
there's something really beautiful about trying to explore the earth, trying to find meaning in that, and that really spoke to me. I really love that part in the film. And in the end, he's just happy dying with somebody who he trusts, who he knows.
When I was watching the movie, I think so now, I really thought it was giving Forrest Gump vibes. Okay. For some reason, if you see the movie,
The writer is
okay,
actually Forrest Gump's writer only.
yes. So when I got to get to know that the same person has written it, and I was watching, I didn't know. So you can see the parallel also. There is a love of life kind of scenario where the person comes and goes, and after things that happen, they have come together. And also, there's a captain that plays a major role in both the movies in characters development, and also there is a sense of various events that have happened. Like the protagonist turns uh, does various things before settling down. So a lot of things, a lot of journeys happen, and then they have found someone, and then the things have settled down. So I think those two parallel, like these parallel are very clearly visible in both the movies. So I don't know, like if you have seen Forrest Gump, like this is in Forrest, like the Forrest Gump with an element of age. I think that was majorly the movie.
I would disagree. I think what you're trying to say is that both of them are about exploring life and trying to understand. But I think both of them are different. Forrest, he's not trying to understand life, he's just experiencing life. Whereas Benjamin, I think, was trying to understand why he is the way he is, what exactly the world has in store for him. Forrest, a lot of things that happened to him happened very unexpectedly, like him being good at TT and then going on to, the Chinese, um, national, not national, international Olympics or something like that, whatever it was. But I think the movies are very different in that way. Forrest only settles, he does settle when he finds the girl, and here also Benjamin settles when he finds the girl. I think that's the only matching thing. But in the end, the movies are very different. The vibes they give are very different. When I saw Forrest Gump, I didn't feel melancholic or I wasn't pondering about life. But when I saw this one, I really was. You can't, I don't think you can compare the two, even though the writer is the same. He is trying to convey two very different messages, even though the tropes might be similar.
So
Correct, correct.
the writer of the movie, Forrest Gump, as well as Benjamin Button, is Eric Roth. The same person has written it, and also the person has also written Killers of the Flower Moon recently.
Huh. I don't think there are any similarities between Forrest Gump. No, there aren't. Like Forrest Gump,
Forrest Gump has
Forrest Gump, Curious Case, along with Killers of the Flower Moon. I think.
not of course Killers of the Flower Moon.
Hmm.
Killers of the
But,
Flower Moon, the killers.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Achha, Eric Roth has written that.
he has written
Continue.
that.
Very, very brilliant. And Martin Scorsese is again the guy is sleight of hand, man. It's like
Please
again,
control your things, okay? Because this is the movie discussion about Curious Case of Benjamin Button and not what is Scorsese.
you are the one who mentioned Killers of Flower Moon. I didn't do that.
I
You
mentioned that the writer is
when
the
you
same.
mention a legend, you have to talk about the legend. You have to pay him the due respect of talking about him. Every
Okay,
time
and
he's nominated at the Oscars, whoever wins, Scorsese, except Departed, he never won. Whoever wins, they go on stage, they always say Martin Scorsese is a legend. Everybody stands up and claps for him. That's his level. That's Martin Scorsese. Nobody gives a shit about the person who went up on stage. They all congratulate Scorsese. That's how brilliant he is. That's how he has shaped the entire film industry. And you're saying I shouldn't talk about him. Like, bro,
So, what do you guys think about the meaning of the film? What do you thought was the meaning of the film? Like, there were many meanings to it. What do you guys thought?
I think there's a scene in the film. Not I think there's a scene in the film when she gets hit by the car. She's in the hospital, and Benjamin is in the waiting room, and they have this 2-3 minute sequence where they show the butterfly effect, basically what could
Mm-hmm.
have happened. Like there's this woman in her home. She begins to leave, and then she remembers she forgot something in the house. She goes back. She goes down. She tries to take a taxi. Somebody else takes it, so she takes the next one, etc., etc. And then the culmination of all of it is that the car hits Kate Blanchett, and that was so beautifully shown. It destroyed some person's entire career, entire reason that they were living, and it was all because of a series of incidents or accidents that happened. I mean, I think that is the entire point of the film, that in life there is nothing you can control. Death is inevitable, and so you should live every moment as if it's your last, just enjoy life as it comes. I think most people get so lost in trying to uh, become better in terms of monetary or in terms of trying to make show others that they're better than them, that they forget that life is very small. Today you are 23, tomorrow you would be 50, and you can die anytime. So you should live for yourself. I think that's one of the meanings or one of the interpretations of the film.
There's a saying by Mark Twain that um, everything good happens when you're young. Something like that. Goes something on this lines that everything good happens to you, or everything good happens when you're young. Basically, something like this. So there was like a very big, you could say, contradiction to Benjamin Button's life because he lived his life when he was a very old man, his young life basically as a very old man. And then he went on to become a kid. He had dementia and all those things also. So there was no point in life, you could say that You say that when you're kids, like even now, we can think like when we were kids, we can be like very, very much carefree. We don't have anything to do. Well, we can just go out, hang out with each other, have fun and all those things without any care in the world. But for Benjamin Button, he never had a point like that in his life. To think about it. Any thoughts on that? Until I change my earphones.
That's a very beautiful thought, I would say. I don't know if I had recognized this before, but the parallel that you're trying to draw is that most people think that when you're young, that's like the best time of your life. But through the movie, he is showing that. But then, okay, his body might be younger, but his mind was younger initially, right? When he actually enjoyed.
But he can't use it, right? Like if you remember, he couldn't even walk in the start properly.
Right. So that is exactly like a kid also, right? In the first 2, 3 years, they can't walk. So,
Maybe he
but it's
had the
about
mind of a old man, right? Though
the
not an old
mind of
man, but mind was kind of developed, right? If you remember, he had one scene where he was sitting on the front porch and there was like kids playing on the front street or something, and he was thinking like, I wish I could just walk over there and see what those guys were doing or something like that. It was a line which he said that point also. You could think that his mind was a bit developed compared to others in that sense.
And I disagree. I think it was his body that was not allowing him to do what he wanted to do. But his brain was still young. That's why, whatever he did when he was 20, even though it was an old body, it was because of those reasons.
Yeah, I think his mind was not. No, I think wait, sort of confusion. And there was in the end when he had. तेरा आवाज नहीं आ रहा.
Right, right. Because also when he talks about the way he talks when he's young, I would say, like when he's old and young, old body but young mind, I would say. His way of talking is, like mama did this or mama said that. It's of a kid. It's not of a mature individual. But when he, of course, leaves house, that is when, he does his way of speaking changes. So I think, his early, like what the early part of the movie shows is he's in old body, but he's of a young mind. He also does things which a kid does, like it is also parallel drawn when Daisy and him go under the bed sheet and see something about a book, like what is the book about all about. That is a scene where which a child does, that you want to see something new and you want to see something exciting. I think that is a parallel that is drawn. And also, it is one thing that because he is a child in a old man body, like he is not the same, and he can feel that, and that is that outsidingness, that outsider feeling is there because, as Aman also mentioned in the scene where children are playing, like his mind is of a child, but his body is also he can't be the same way as other people are, and but he also has to do something to satisfy the child like qualities. So he does whatever he does in his capacity. And I think he's
Hmm.
also very aware of that throughout the movie, especially in the starting 30-40 minutes.
Hmm. Okay, so we were talking about the meaning of the movie. So there was also like you could say there was also one thing you could think about. The movie is also about letting go of, anything that's bad happened to you, maybe. He forgave his father very quickly in the movie, you could think. Um, there was also, like, he also, he was born as an old man. He didn't, take it as a really bad thing. He let that thing go and he accepted the fact that he was born like this, and he went along with that fact also. There was you could think there was that meaning in the movie also. What else?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
sir.
in the end, it's a lot of those philosophical topics that you discuss when you're drunk, like just what exactly life is about. There are things that happen to you, good and bad. You
Hmm.
accept them, you move on. so many things left to chance which you can't control. Uh, for example, there's a woman in my batch, and she's from IT. And I talked to her. I asked her, like, and she was like, "I had no idea. It was completely luck." And she leaves it all to luck. Like she accepts the fact that she has no idea how she got in. She says that she's not very above average intelligence or anything like that, but just luck. And I think that speaks a lot because there's a lot of things in my life. I'm sure there's a lot of things in your life also which you yourself have no idea. You couldn't have thought of it, but you just get it. So that's life.
That happens, that is okay. And, in that sense, if you see, because that feeling also comes like Forrest Gump, like that is what the quality I was talking about. Even in Forrest Gump, things happen. They don't have to happen for a particular reason, and that happens in this movie as well. He meets Elizabeth or he meets the captain by chance, by sheer chance. There is no particular motive that he's doing. He's going this way and that way. That is just life is taking him to roads, and that happens in everyone's life. Uh, Also coming back to the maturity part of it, like the meaning part of it, surprisingly, when he is younger, he takes a very much mature decision of like leaving Daisy and his daughter and let them be, because he understands, he can't be there for them. Like they will like Daisy and her daughter would require a real father. So that maturity is he is mature when he is young, like when he's in a young body. That maturity is also shown there. So in a way, like when he's 20, when his body is of 20 years of age, his mind is of 50 years of age. That lets him take bold and mature decisions. I think that is also opposite to when you're carefree and when you're young, you do stupid things, whereas this person is much more mature in the sense.
It was also like unconditional love, you can think, because he was very old and she was very young, but they both got along very well. And as in when they kept on growing, or when they started falling in love, that never stopped once they fell in love with each other. Even when he was growing younger and she was growing older to a point.
I think in that sense, because see, about love, here it was more from the Benjamin side. Benjamin was from the get go to the end of the movie. He was there, but for the Daisy, when her young days were over, after that, when she knows that certain things have not worked out for her, then it is then when she comes back to Benjamin, and she
Mm.
and she knows that she settles down basically. And like I'm sorry for bringing back the parallel to Forrest Gump. It happens similarly in Forrest Gump as well, where the girl goes and has done things, and then she realizes that this is the man that has loved her all along, and then she settles down with him.
Mm.
Yeah, that's very true. I would say that as soon as you said it, I was also going to bring up Forrest Gump because that's exactly the same thing that happens. Maybe the author actually experienced something like that and wanted the entire world to feel it along with him.
No, because Forrest Gump, no, because Eric Roth is not the author; he is the screenplay writer. So the Forrest Gump is based on book. Killers of the Flower Moon is also based on a book.
This is based on a
But
short story.
yeah, those the short story is actually very different. So I have heard the short story,
Mm.
and it is written by F.
Fitzgerald,
Scott. Okay, so like he's a very popular writer. He
very
was a very popular American writer. So, uh, but that is very dark. If you see the original short story that is written, it's very dark and it's very different from the movie. So that is why I was the original content is the author's content. It's not the adaptation is very different, very very different. The current movie that we have has a completely different story than the short story that is there. So you can also see that unpolished ness in the movie, because some aspects like uh, the clock work, the clock element that was put there, that a clockmaker was there, and he just made the clock that was running reverse because his son died in the war. That is totally digital in the movie, and that was, I think, that was not required as well. That whole element could have been avoided altogether. And also the hurricane part. I don't know why the hurricane part was incorporated in the movie. If you take two things out, it will be cut down to around 20-30 minutes.
It's not about cutting down a film, it's about the point that you're trying to make. So, for example, with the watchmaker, it's another thing that a lot of people try to do, Okay, I want to be young, which is what the point Aman had also said. That when you're younger, you're carefree. It's the same thing. You don't want to accept the life or the cards that you have been dealt. So you're always trying to get back to the place which you thought was better. But the point is, you were not better there either. There was also always something, even at that point, which if you go back to, you would regret. But people don't see that. It's a very catch-22 situation.
And what are you talking about? The watchmaker scene has nothing to do with being young.
No, he's trying to reverse time, right? With the clock that he has made, it's like a symbolism of that. Reverse
Yes,
time, get his son back.
he's just trying to revive his son. It's not about being young or doing something
Not
great.
young, just go back, get something that he does not have right now. Go back to the past.
That is for the war. So that is a symbolism for war, or because, or also there is a layer of war as well, a layer of element of war. So in the watchmaker scene as well, and where the Benjamin is also born on the first day of the war has stopped. So I think in some way war is also incorporated in the movie.
तो बेंजामिन और उसके फादर, बेंजामिन और उसकी डॉटर, और कौन वो वॉचमेकर कौन है? मेरे को उससे याद नहीं आ रहा कौन है वो।
अरे मेरे को
As
याद है उसके
starting
काफी
was
एकदम काफी बार उसके कट सीन्स याद है, बट मेरे को फुल स्टोरी याद नहीं है।
कुछ भी नहीं, उसे एक वॉच मेकर होता है जो घड़ी बनाता है जो उल्टी वापस चलती है, क्योंकि उसका बेटा मर गया था वॉर के अंदर, सो ही वांट्स टू रिवर्स टाइम, और उसी दिन वो पैदा होता है, क्या बोलते हैं, बेंजामिन बटन। ये स्टोरी बताई गई है, और ये स्टोरी
ओ
कहीं पर भी नहीं है, अपने आप पता नहीं क्यों इंक्लूड करी गई है। ये मेरा
अच्छा,
क्वेश्चन था।
ये स्टोरी में है?
हाँ, मूवी में
अच्छा,
स्टोरी
मूवी
भी
में।
नहीं है। स्टोरी बहुत डिफरेंट है भाई, स्टोरी बहुत डिफरेंट है अगर तू पढ़ेगा तो।
कैसे डिफरेंट है?
भाई स्टोरी में वो बंदा बहुत कुछ करता है, वो स्टोरी में बंदा अगर जंग पे जा, देयर इज नो
इंग्लिश इंग्लिश,
एंगल ऑफ लव।
यही क्वेश्चन करते इंग्लिश में।
करा मैंने, तेरे को समझ लिया तभी मैंने हिंदी में करा।
अरे करना चल।
But like in the story itself, things are very different. Like he also, like there's a involvement of grandkid as well. So in the story, he's having there's a daughter, there is also grandkid, and he's playing with the grandkid also. So a lot of things are different in the short story that is written. It's much more darker in the sense. Like this is much more, living life, about exploring life. That is in that short story, the protagonist is very much immature, I would say, and he does very kiddish thing throughout his life. Like he is not growing as such. His body is also in reverse. I think that is also a beautiful parallel that has been drawn with the short story. That he doesn't grow up. His body is growing. That is the only thing that grows, but his mind is still the a childlike from throughout his old life to the young age. But in the movie, things are different. He's much more mature as he grows up, and he also takes sensible decision throughout his life. I would say he's not immature. He's just childlike when he is young. That is okay.
What do you think about the side characters in the film? Like the importance of them, or some of them might be redundant. What do you thought? What do you think?
What do you think, Aman? First, you tell us about you.
I want to start with you.
No, no, no. We want to start with you. We want to include you.
Let's
You're
start.
part of this podcast. The viewers want to listen to Aman. Okay.
If I want, I can cut you out.
Exactly. So now you should talk. Go.
Question. uh,
ए भाई मैं मार दूंगा तेरे को तो
Side
सुन लिया
characters, side characters,
uh,
side characters.
ठीक है, side characters ना. Let's start from the very start. Let's talk about Roger Button first. The very first scene, his wife died. He got a son, very old, wrinkled old baby. He ran away with it and he put in front of that old age home. Right. And later on, not later on, but maybe throughout his life, he used to keep coming back to Benjamin. He used to basically, you could think of, look out for him, or just try to maybe get a chance to talk with him or get along with him or something. And later on, he does do that in the end of his life. When he knows that he's going to die, he wanted to make things right with him. And he leaves all of his wealth, property, and all those things to his son. Right. What do you think the significance of that character is?
Redemption.
हाँ मतलब वो ठीक है, मतलब point वो नहीं था. मतलब why was he essential to his development as a person?
Basically, his father committed one of the worst sins that exists on the planet, abandoning a child. And to be able to grow up and forgive that father, that's a huge thing.
Hmm.
Because when you're a child, you are helpless. You only rely on your parents, at least for the first 15 years. And even as soon as you're born, you're rejected by them. The same people who brought you here. That's literally the worst kind of rejection that exists. So growing up and being
मतलब
able to forgive is a sign of maturity and intelligence, which most people still don't have.
but then it comes back to the same point, right? When he was young, he should be, or when he was young only, like when he looked old and he was young, he should have been, what do you say, like very, what's the
I
word?
understand what you're trying to say. So I think that comes back to the point that he grew up in an old age home. So he had seen death all around, the same point that Hardik said before. And so he knew exactly what death was. He wasn't afraid of it. He respected it for what it was. And he understood the significance of it in a man's life. So when he knew that his father was dying, he didn't feel remorse or sadness. He just felt
Hmm.
that this is something he needed to do simply
Hmm.
because the man was dying and he knew what people experiencing that feel like. He empathized with them.
Not exactly remember, but I think so. The first drinks that I think Benjamin has is with his father, correct? If I remember it correctly, the first drinks that he has is with his father.
No, but he didn't know he was his father then. Hmm.
Yeah, that is okay, but like he,
Ah.
of course, Benjamin, like Eric knew that he is his son. No one, would just pick a random guy and just go and have a drink. Okay, especially with a
Hmm.
car at that point of age. So I think in a way he has also contributed in his growth and contributed in his growing up of age and developing. So the first drinks that he has his father, and I think they have a chill scene, like even though the story is tragic, as Karesh said, but still, they are, um, I would say brothers, I would say, in a much more sense, because um, Eric is also old when he meets, uh, is old looking, okay, when he's met Benjamin, that is also old looking. And so seeing just from their appearance age, they look brotherly, and that is how their relationship is also there in the movie. It's later in the movie that when the Eric is on the verge of death, the relationship changes to a responsible son and a father. But otherwise, it's much more of a friendly feel that they have.
Hmm.
And I also don't think so, because because he was loved by the mother, by the mother the mother that adopted him. Sorry, had loved him unconditionally. So I don't think so that um, wide of parental love was there in Benjamin. Uh, I think that helped reducing the uh, any tips or any grudges for his father.
Hmm.
I think
What
really
about
one
the
character that one character that really spoke to me was the character whose name was not mentioned even in the film. That the lady that taught him how to play piano. Uh, that lady's character is not mentioned anywhere in the movie as well. But I think that
Hmm.
was a really sweet character to help him to just not learn the piano, but also talk about life, that how people die and how life is. That was really one of the interesting characters that I felt about.
the interesting characters I thought was this guy who got shocked by lightning 7 times. That was a fun element to bring back again and again. What happened to that guy in the end?
He died.
He died. He was a fun character. I liked that guy. What about this guy? The captain.
Captain,
His,
like, he is not like in the starting. He is like made part of the movie on the starting part of journey of Benjamin. He is there, but after he reaches the place where he meets Elizabeth, the captain is gone. Even though he should be there because he is the one who is captaining the ship, but still,
Mhm.
that uh, journey on the boat, that is where he is there. And also, he helps in the character development of Benjamin. He helps him having his first sex, and also uh,
शर्मा रहे
also he's the one who brought him to Elizabeth. So that is also there. I think so
Mhm.
in a way, and he also teaches him how to find his purpose. He says that he is an artist and he was a rebel from the get go. That he
Mhm.
how he stood against his father. So that wisdom and knowledge also passed down by the captain. I think in some like he has a huge development role in uh, Benjamin's life.
Mhm. One of the things about the captain is that he accepted Benjamin for who he was in the movie. Like he was, I think, the very first person who accepted, not first person, his mother was there, but he was one of the outsiders who accepted him for who he was and gave him a job on the boat. That, I think, meant a lot to him also. The self acceptance. He started feeling the self acceptance from for himself after that point, I think. Because there was a age limit to the people joining his crew, I think. And he was very old. Technically, he was very old looking. That's why he couldn't get a job. But the I think he still gave him that job. He accepted him for who he was, and he still gave him a job over there. That was, I think, a very big thing for him. And I also, I think, like also encouraged him to, pursue his dreams, like even when, others tell him he can't.
Correct. So apart from this captain, there was also the I don't know the name of the character, but the character who was traveling, the who was showing some magical stuff or something like that to Forrest, and he was also telling him that he should travel and he should see the world.
To Benjamin,
Yes.
you said Forrest.
Oh, my bad.
ठीक है.
Sorry.
Continue.
So that is why he actually leaves the place and he goes to India and to explore the area.
So one thing that I would want to talk about is, what do you think about like the directing style specifically? Like if it was not Fincher, if it was somebody else, uh, like Hardik mentioned Spielberg, or it could have been maybe Nolan, maybe, because this is the kind of movie he's attracted to. But
Until there is some complexity to the character, like I don't think so ever in his life Christopher Nolan would direct a slice of life. I don't think so.
no chance, no chance.
That is this movie is a kind of a slice of life of a movie. And adding to the science fiction part of it, there is a science fiction element to it. But this is majorly the treatment is like a slice of life. It's nothing, there is no particular hero.
I completely agree. You're not wrong at all. I'm just saying that if somebody else directed it, for example, maybe Tarantino, no, that's never gonna happen.
Not
But
even Tarantino would do that.
that's what I'm saying. That's the interesting part, right? So if he had to adapt this movie, like if he was forced to, what do you think the movie would have become? How do you think the movie would have changed?
Very fast paced.
Tarantino? Have you seen Hateful Eight?
The thing is, the point with this is key. Even for Fincher, this is like a very different film, which I thought. So I think like from an artistic.
Try to see that David Fincher has also directed Social Network, if I'm not wrong. Correct? I don't. No, in that sense, he's a versatile filmmaker. He's not always directing some murder thriller. If you see Social Network is not a murder thriller or anything like gruesome is there. It is just the life that is explored through what has happened. It's an entrepreneurship journey.
No, the undertone of that film is about betrayal. The essence of that film is betrayal, because that is what is happening.
Also deals with that. Not denying that. But I'm saying what I'm trying to say is that he's a versatile filmmaker. He's not restricted. So like this movie is different. Social Network is also different from all the other filmmakers, from all the films that he has made, like Seven or Gone Girl. Gone Girl in itself is very different. It's not also about.
I think you're focusing too much on the entire story instead of what usually the story is trying to convey. Like if you talk about
my point is the question you ask me, what difference directing style these guys would bring in. I think if you were a good filmmaker, you would try to think of the tone of the film when you read the script first, right? You try to set the pacing from that manner only. Like basically, if you think about it, this is a slice of life film, right? Even if you're a good filmmaker, you would understand the concept behind it and try to rebuild the whole thing on the same narrative, right? You won't try to add like any special visual effects or anything extremely, what do you say, out of the box or something, right? You need to understand how the script was written. It was written in a sense that you need to give a real taste of what kind of life that person was given who was reverse aging.
You're not wrong, but you're missing the point. What I'm trying to say is, when a director gets a script, he gets it entirely to him. He can make any and all changes that he wants. Now the question is, he's not going to change the essence, but he's going to add elements to it which makes it unique to him. If you look at Tarantino films specifically, I'm bringing it up because the sort of dialogues he writes, nobody else writes it. Nobody else. If you look at Nolan, the kind
But
of
the but the thing is,
sorry,
if Tarantino added his dialogues in this, it would sound really bad, honestly.
that's what you think. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Because even if you look at some movie like Inglorious Bastards, which is set in Nazi occupied Germany, even then his dialogues don't seem as stupid as you would think. It really fits because that's the kind of vibe he sets.
But he also builds characters like that only, right? He has characters like that would look good when they say that dialogue. If you bring someone like Benjamin Button or Daisy in this, it wouldn't sound good. And they were also brought up in a place like that, right? They weren't brought up in a Nazi occupied Germany who's a soldier or someone from whose mouth like a dialogue like that sounds good.
I get your point. But if you look at his old movies like Jackie Brown, also, or if you look at Reservoir Dogs, they're just like criminals. Or even in Jackie Brown, she's just like a woman, like nothing specific. And even then, the dialogues work. That's how he sets the world. That's how he sets the tone. So even if he was forced to make this film, he would adapt it such that it would feel as if the tone is that. That's what I'm trying to say.
I can't
Like that.
really imagine him doing that, but he can.
Okay.
Hardik,
Fair.
good as well.
I don't see if you want to say that. I don't know if you want to say that how a different filmmaker would have adapted it. But I can say, that people who could have adapted it, I would say, like Spielberg would be one of the people who could have done this, who could have, been on the project and could have uh,
Makoto
given us.
Shinkai.
Sorry,
Makoto Shinkai.
I don't understand. Or either one interesting person I think that could have also directed this movie would be Shyamalan. I think Shyamalan would have brought something unique to the story. I don't think so. Tarantino or a Scorsese or Nolan would direct this movie at all because it's not their preference. I would say not that they can't, but their preference would not be this kind of story.
Hmm.
Because if you see, like this kind move, the movie is not staying true to a particular meaning or to a particular plot. Like it's a whole range of life that is shown, and you can take the audience can take anything that is there from there. It's not catering to a particular story, a particular thought process, as
Hmm.
it is in the filmmakers that I mentioned. So that difference is there.
Fair enough.
What do you think about the performance of the two leads, Brad Pitt and Kate Blanchett?
Well, Brad Pitt, I think he has that charisma which very few, not very few, quite a bit of good actors have. So I don't think there was any problem in his acting. Even Kate Blanchett, I think she did a wonderful job. I don't think in this movie there was anyone who particularly stood out as somebody who was weak as a sort of actor.
Hmm.
I mean, you're doing a Fincher film. I mean, it's not going to be somebody who's not up for the task.
Agreed. Like I think particularly the mothers, the adopting
Act-
mother
yeah.
was very good. Like she was very good in her role. Apart from that, um, I think Elizabeth as well. As Elizabeth, that the moment that she meets after going to the Russia, I think that she has also done a wonderful role. Apart from that, I think everyone is good. I would not say anyone is not fitting the role, and everyone has done their part. particularly about talking about the leads, I think Daisy has done a very wonderful job. Like you can see, that when she's young, the carefree nature is there to her, or when she's old, she's much more uh, time taking, or it's much more considered, or thoughtful. That acting and filmmaking is also there.
What about the cinematography? Was there like any scenes or moments you thought like very particularly very effective in the film?
All of them, I wouldn't really.
One scene was there. There was that ballet scene where that Daisy was dancing. I don't know where they were, but they were. She was dancing, and she met Benjamin. I think I don't know when he met him. I don't remember that properly, but they met somewhere, and then she took him to a place where she was standing and dancing, doing a ballet under the night sky, and he was looking at her, and he was contemplating his life at that point. याद है?
Yeah. Very beautiful scene.
So, see, this
For me, it
movie
was specifically the butterfly effect one because that really struck out to me. I mean, have you guys seen the butterfly effect? But Ashton, in which Ashton Kutcher was also there. That's also a very beautiful film. For me, movies like this, which try to make you understand the nuances of life, always.
But you see, if from a real person perspective, you can never know these things. Okay, like the sequence that is shown in Butterfly Effect, that particular sequence, that this person was late and this was earlier. In real life, you can't know these things. So you don't know the effect that is playing out. Okay, you can never know that a person has gotten up late and this action has been missed by this person.
It was just a way of showing something. Obviously, you can never know anything. I mean,
No,
I'm saying that I'm trying to tell the implication of it in the real life. You can never make it out.
of course.
Of course, in a
That's the
movie
point,
you can
right?
show that, but in a real life scenario, you never know what is impacting what you, what is in which thing is impacting it in what manner.
all right, guys, this was the podcast. Thanks for watching this episode on the curious case of Benjamin Button. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys thought the discussion we had was insightful, and you maybe look at films in a different manner when you look at them, and also write down your reviews. Any movie you watched recently, you can just write down the reviews over there. We'll just go watch them also because we are growing together, we're learning together. So it'll be a great learning experiment for both of us. Besides that, do like, share, and subscribe. Do let us know what we can do better. And also check out our Instagram page where we, play fun games over there. It's all of it is in the description. And listen to it on Spotify, listen to it on Amazon Music, listen to it on Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and all the other audio platforms you can think of, and follow us over there also. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.